Hey guys, what's happening? Niyat here with Film Comics Explained, and today we're going to delve into the Underworld series by taking a look at Michael Corvin, the first Lycan-Vampire hybrid to appear in the films. Now, I already have a couple of videos covering the Lycans, werewolves, vampires, as well as the Corvina strain, which I'll be leaving in the description below, and if you haven't seen them, I recommend that you give them a watch before continuing this video. But with that having been said, Michael Corvin was essentially the first ever Lycan-Vampire hybrid to appear in the franchise that possessed traits from both species and was thought to have had near unlimited powers. His ascension into an immortal being was the result of him being a direct descendant of the Corvinus clan, a Hungarian family whose genealogy was a crucial plot device in the Underworld franchise. In the films, we discover that Michael's ancestor, Alexander Corvinus, was the patriarch of the Corvinus clan, who had been a 5th century warlord in Hungary, and whose rare blood strain bonded with the plague that ravaged his village and turned him into the first true immortal. Following his transformation, he had 3 children: Marcus, who was bitten by a bat and turned into the first vampire, William, who was bitten by a wolf and turned into the first werewolf, and an unnamed third who carried a dormant strain of his immortality gene. While Michael carried the Corvinus strain in its dormant form and had no active powers or immortality at first, he'd find himself caught in the crossfire between the two factions, with his blood being sought by the Lycans for a hybrid experiment that could tip the war in their favour. The Lycans, who were descendants of werewolves, attempt to capture Michael, led by Lucien, the progenitor of their subspecies, but are confronted by Celine, a vampire death dealer that had grown suspicious as to why they were after him. Though she manages to hold them off, Michael is attacked by Lucien, who manages to bite him and retrieve some of his blood. After testing the blood extracted by Lucien and realizing that Michael was indeed the carrier of the rare blood strain, the Lycans make it their primary objective to capture him and use the ancestor of Alexander Corvinus to defeat the vampires that had tormented them for centuries. Given that Lucien had infected him, Michael was on his way to becoming a powerful Lycan immortal hybrid, but after he's attacked by an enraged Craven and shot with silver nitrate bullets, Celine bites him and passes on her vampiric gene, which ultimately saves Michael and turns him into the first Lycan-Vampire hybrid. While in hybrid form, Michael would regress to a more feral mentality, where his combat style demonstrated a ruthlessness that he'd never shown before as a human. Post-transformation, he has never been heard to speak beyond growls or roars. Despite this, some facet of his intelligence remains, evident in his utilization of weapons, recognition of objectives, and his knowing of who his adversaries and allies were, likely linked to his high-functioning predatory instinct. In the first Underworld film, when Michael's hybrid form had settled, his facial architecture remained human, with minor alterations to his ribcage and subtle changes to his pigmentation, while in the sequel, he sported a short muzzle, likely due to the evolution of his hybridized powers. Having said that, the latter film's Awakening and the animated film Endless War showed him in his first form. However, I think this variance in appearance had more to do with the lack of consistency in the continuity of the later films, given the fact that Scott Speedman, the actor who first portrayed him, had been recast in each follow-up movie. Though clearly deadliest when in hybrid form, Michael still had the ability to partially change by manipulating his eyes, teeth, and even his fingers into claws. In hybrid form, Michael is gifted with a combination of powers from the vampire and Lycan strains that he'd been infected with, visually represented with a vampire's teeth in his top jaw and Lycan teeth in his bottom jaw. As a hybrid, Michael has displayed several superhuman attributes, including Superhuman Strength, Endurance, Speed, Agility, Regenerative Healing, and Sensory Synchronisation, a trait shared with his daughter Eve. Superhuman Endurance. Regardless of whether he was in hybrid or human form, Michael can withstand several gunshots and still have enough strength to fight. After adapting to his new state, he withstands several powerful blows from the immortal elders Marcus and William on separate fights, the latter whose raw strength was enough to shatter solid stone. Superhuman Strength. In his human form, Michael can stop a truck with his bare hands and break steel chains with relative ease, but when changed to his hybrid form, his strength increases significantly, as seen with his ability to punch through the chest of a werewolf. He also holds his ground against the vampire elder Victor in physical combat immediately following his transformation, taking the elder by surprise with his incredible speed and strength, before ultimately falling prey to Victor's exceptional combat experience and superior battle technique. Although Michael is one of the most physically powerful beings in the series, he's pretty new to combat, and his lack of experience tends to put him at a disadvantage when facing particularly experienced combatants. However, his raw strength, speed and rage are enough to compensate for this when facing the average vampire or Lycan. I mean, Michael's strength was so great that he killed William, the first werewolf in existence, by tearing his head in half with his bare hands, despite having only recently recovered from near death at the hands of Marcus. Regenerative Healing. Although he is dependent on blood to heal himself, much like the other immortal races, his regenerative healing is unparalleled, allowing Michael to come back to life with only a few drops of Celine's blood, even after being impaled through the chest. Even if he sustains life-threatening wounds without compensating the blood loss, his body goes into a state of suspended animation, similar to a vampire elder, to preserve the brain long enough for the body to heal itself from the damage. Superhuman Speed. Due to him being a hybrid, Michael's speed greatly exceeds both Lycan and Vampire, allowing him to move faster than the eye can see, making it appear as though he's teleporting from place to place. Superhuman Agility. Michael can jump higher and move more athletically than both vampires or Lycans. Moments after turning into a Lycan, he was able to instinctually leap out a window, perform a flip and land on his feet without harm, showing the extent of his agility and reflexes long before his transformation into a hybrid. Sensory Synchronization. As mentioned earlier, both Michael and his daughter Eve had a unique trait described as sensory synchronization, with both of them perceiving the actions of the other and being able to sense when they were being threatened.
Security units on alert. Subject 2 has escaped. Security units on alert. Subject 2 has escaped.
I've got to admit that I was pretty disappointed with how Michael was utilized in the films, used as a plot device in the first movie, and then described as a symbol of Lycan and vampire evolution, only to be tossed aside in the follow-up movies. I mean, we see him defeat the most powerful werewolf in Underworld Evolution, while Celine defeated the most powerful vampire, so I thought that both their arcs would involve a unification between the vampires and Lycans, especially considering the revelations made about how the Lycans and werewolves had been mistreated, and how most vampires didn't actually realize they'd been in the wrong this whole time. But instead of this, his character dies off screen at the hands of Marius, the new leader of the Lycans in Underworld Blood Wars, which I thought was a wasted opportunity. I'm curious to hear what you guys thought about Michael Corvin and the Underworld sequels, so please share your thoughts in the comments below.
You don't scare me, Celine.
Well, we're gonna have to work on that.
Well, that's all for today, folks. A big thanks to all of you guys who requested another deep dive into the Underworld series. Don't forget to hit subscribe and click the notification icon to stay up to date on all my content, and if there's anything else you'd like to request, please don't hesitate to ask. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film and Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.
What are you waiting for? Shoot her! I can't! Not without taking her out! I can't get a shot!